Hello and welcome to the Rockbridge Reports on the Record. I'm Margaret Volsky here today with Janice Burguieres, teacher at Waddell Elementary. Janice, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll start off. You were telling me recently that you are not from the Lexington area. How did you end up teaching at Waddell Elementary?
I started my college career in Louisiana and was at a small community college, and my parents moved up here, and so everybody else in my dorm went home on the weekends and it was just me. So wasn't really liking that a whole lot, so ended up transferring to James Madison and fell in love with this area, the beauty of this area, and so when I graduated I wanted to stay in this area and got a job at Waddell Elementary School.
And did you study teaching then as an undergraduate student?
I did. We were one of the last groups to come through that could major in education. Now you have to major in something else and minor in education. So, yeah.
Perfect. And what drew you to that major initially? Is that what you studied in the community college and you just continued at JMU, or
I did.
What made you interested?
I don't remember when I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, but I don't remember ever wanting to be anything else. So it's just something I always sort of knew, I think, that I wanted to do when I grew up.
Perfect. And you currently teach the first grade. Is this the only grade that you've taught, or have you sort of fluctuated during your time at Waddell?
I student taught in some other grades, but as far as teaching, I've only taught first grade, 22 years teaching first grade.
That's a long time. I guess once you find something you like, then that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what have you found are the differences between teaching in a large community and a small one? You've always been in Lexington. Do you find that the small community sort of fosters a good relationship between parents and teachers and students, or would you prefer to teach in a larger area?
Absolutely. I think teaching in a small community, teaching is such a partnership with parents. And not just parents, but with the community that surrounds your school. So I think teaching in a small community allows us to do that, in some cases a lot better. We can take field trips to local businesses and we are welcomed there. And our parents are fantastic. And our kids see us in the grocery store and at Walmart, and that's very exciting for them. So they see us as real people and we see them as real people, and I think that has a really positive impact.
That's perfect. I had two questions there, so that's great. Have you encountered any challenges in a small community, though, in the setting? If there's problems with students or other faculty members, is it more difficult because, like you said, everyone knows each other? So is it?
That is true. You can't go to Walmart in your sweatsuits and hair up and no makeup on. Oh, you can, but there is that expectation that you're going to run into your students. But I've been thinking a lot today about what's happening here on campus, and several years back, we lost a student at our school, and one of the upsides to having a small community is that our community rallied around us. The Rockbridge County schools and the Buena Vista City schools came and helped us, and the community itself helped us and helped us to heal. And I know in the past, when Buena Vista has lost several students, we've reached out to them and to try to help them, because as a teacher, you understand completely the pain of losing a student. So really, I can't think of any hardship that would bother me enough to ever really give up teaching in a small community.
So Waddell is about to undergo some major architectural changes, and we have talked about this a few times before because you've been sort of influential in deciding what the building's going to look like, and you said the architects have asked you your opinions on things. What are you most looking forward to about the changes?
Oh, wow. I don't know that there's something really specific. I just know that our school is starting to look very tired and very worn out, and I think I've said this to you before, that it's sort of indicative of, or not indicative of, really the value that this community places on education. So I'm just looking forward to being in a facility that really reflects how our community, our teachers, our parents feel about education and the importance of education with our children. So I'm just looking forward to, bright shining hallways and bright shining classrooms, and things water fountains that work, and plumbing that works, and lighting that works. So, and also to be a little bit more accessible, handicap accessible, and get things up to code. Yeah.
So sort of in that same vein, the current Waddell building is about 100 years old. What are the most significant challenges that you think you face just working and living in and trying to conduct a class in a building that's so tired?
Yes. Well, there are days in the summertime when the heat is unbearable because the air conditioner hasn't quite kicked in, and in the wintertime it can be cold, it can be hot. I have children who bring sweaters to the classroom from the very first day of school and just leave them there to the end of school because we're never quite sure what the temperature is going to be in the classrooms, and not just my classrooms, and in all of the classrooms. When you have the basics, the water fountain leaks and there's a puddle of water on the floor and you're having to watch out for the children. The hallways slant, and so when you're pushing computer carts down the hall and they're sliding off to one side, there are little inconveniences, but it takes a lot of your energy and focus off of what you need to be doing to worry about those little details.
And do you think that the children as well notice that the building sort of is in a state of disarray, or are they sort of,
I think
less
I teach
cognizant?
first grade, so I think they're sort of oblivious to a lot of that. But I think some of the older children do, and I think subconsciously they probably do realize that the school is not maybe up to par, because there are times when we have to say on the way out to recess, you can't walk down that temporary ramp. That's for children who might need it for wheelchair access. And yeah, so it's little things like that they do have to work around as well.
And does Waddell, I'm just uncertain, do they, does the school have a large disabled community? Are there children in wheelchairs
Yeah, we have throughout the years had that. We don't, I believe currently, our PE teacher's in a wheelchair, but she had surgery. But we have had children in the past, on average one a year, 2 a year sometime. And that has always been a problem. There are a couple of doors that really we can't access with wheelchairs. And we have a changing population, so we never do know when we're going to have a child who needs those facilities, and they're not available for them.
And so with the new building, they're intending on making it sort of more accessible for children with learning differences and handicaps. So these problems won't be continuing then?
Absolutely, and as you can imagine, 100 years ago, the building codes were not what they are today. So everything will be brought up to code, and which will be fantastic in so many different ways with technology and everything else, yeah.
And is there a certain amount of nostalgia about leaving this building for you? Having been there 22 years, what do you think you're going to miss the most? I mean, not the leaky roof or the crooked hallways, but what do you think is going to be the most challenging part of leaving that building?
It's so funny that you asked that question, because I was talking to my husband this weekend and saying, I know that I've complained about this building so much and I'm looking so forward, but I've never been a teacher in any other classroom other than the classroom I'm in right now. So I'm already starting to look around and see, okay, what can I pry off the walls and take with me as a memento of my time in that classroom. So, I mean, there are things that I will miss. It's the familiarity and knowing your classroom, and when I go to set up my classroom at the beginning of the year, I know what bookshelves will work where and won't work in different places. So there will be things that I miss about that. So, yeah.
And did you get to choose sort of what your new classroom is going to look like? I know the architects have been working really hard with the teachers at Waddell to sort of make the building what y'all would like. But did you get to choose any of the design elements there, or is it more of a standardized approach?
There's some of it that's standardized, but they even asked us, what about calendar, because we do calendar with our children every day, and is there enough wall space in here to have a calendar that the children can sit in front of and do calendar activities every day? And well, we could put some bookshelves here or some seating underneath the windows for the kids to have, like little reading seats in the windows. So they did really ask for some of our input on that, which was really nice.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And are there going to be technological advances made as well? I know when you build a new building, you have all these opportunities open to add different types of technology.
Yes.
And if so, is there any anxiety about sort of moving forward into the modern age with the new building for you?
I love technology, so I'm thrilled anytime we have access to technology. I know that in Lilburn Downing, which was recently renovated, they have technology that's green technology. So the lights automatically turn off after a certain amount of time, and so you're not wasting electricity and those types of things. So I'm really hoping we see those same innovations in our building, so that we can be a little bit more green than where we are right now. So that will be fantastic, but I also think that we'll all have smart boards mounted and those types of things. That'll be wonderful.
Perfect. And will there be a different educational process for the teachers then, learning how to use that? And will it be standardized across for all the different grades and ages? I know at Central they're sort of standardizing things. So is that going to be something you think is going to be implemented at Waddell?
I think they probably will have it standardized, and then it will be sort of up to the teachers how much they choose to use those things in their classroom. I have no doubt that there will be some training, and we also have such a fantastic staff at our school and faculty that we train each other. When we have questions or problems and we're unsure of something, we can easily go to each other and say, I don't know how to do this, or I know how to run this equipment, but I don't know how to implement it in a lesson plan. And so we're very good about going to each other and sharing. Teachers steal worse than anybody else, so we'll steal each other's ideas and borrow from each other. So yeah, it's great to have that support system at our school.
Great. And just renovation-wise, how are you feeling about, I know they're going to keep y'all out of trailers, which is great, but how are you feeling about having to move sort of halfway and set up, shop once more and move the children? Are you feeling anxious about that, or is the excitement sort of overtaking that?
I was thinking again about this weekend, and it is very exciting, but I realized that I might have to move into the new part and then move again the following year, or maybe about a year and a half later when they get the other section done and the two parts reconnected with each other. So that's a little, you think of the headache involved with that, but it's well worth everything that we're going to get. So I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. I have some fun questions for you. If the city of Lexington gave you $1 million to spend at Waddell, what would you spend it on?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I think technology, because I think that's the wave of the future. I think that the jobs that we're preparing these children for don't even exist yet. And we need to at least be preparing them for what we know exists now. So I think really technology is what we need to be pushing.
Perfect. Technology is definitely, it's wonderful. And having a new building and access to all that will definitely be helpful for you guys, I'm sure. And what advice would you give to people that are interested in going into the education field as things are, as you said, sort of developing and changing?
Oh, I would say, educate yourself, be aware. It's hard not to be this idealistic person when you're just graduating or going into college. But, there are a lot of unfunded mandates and laws and rules and locally, state level, national level. And so you have to be prepared for that as well, because it can be very demoralizing. You have to really want to teach, and you have to know what the positives are and know that you're going to be able to focus on those positives, and that there is no better job in the world than to get to work with young children every single day.
Well, perfect. Janice, I can't thank you enough for interviewing with me today. It was such a pleasure to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Brockridge Reports on the Record. I'm Margaret Volsky.